Good evening, everyone. As we begin, I'll ask everyone to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices and remind council that our procedure bylaw prescribes the use of such things during council meetings. It is 6:30 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. And I'll acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples, including the Mississauga and Ojibwe nations. We also recognize the enduring presence of the Haudenosaunee peoples in this region, as well as the significance of the Williams Treaties. We are grateful to the Indigenous communities who have stewarded this land for generations, and we commit to respecting their cultural heritage and working toward reconciliation in all that we do. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council approve the February 10th, 2025 planning meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. I will note that Councillor Wheeldon has sent regrets as he is en route to a conference at which he will be representing the municipality. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. We have no delegations this evening. I'm missing the motions for the statutory public. Oh, that's why. We have no statutory public meeting this evening. Which brings us to staff reports. The first is Site Plan Control Summary Report. Director Walsh, we've read this report. Do you have anything to add or highlight? Sorry, Manager Warren.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm just really to add, I can answer any questions that anybody might have on any of the site plans that are provided there. I will note specifically the SP 05 2024, which is the Omni long-term care facility that most probably gets the most attention in the site plan world. I can just give a quick update to say we've had good discussions, including today. We have provided the site plan is not only complete and been circulated, but the comments from both the county and the municipality have already been provided. The county just as of in the last hour to the proponents, so it certainly is moving along as expeditiously as we could possibly manage it. In another effort to try and be ready, the building permit itself has actually been pre-reviewed by our building team, and we are on schedule to enter into a site plan agreement and have complete site plan approval by the end of March, which also links up with Omni's timing.
Very well, thank you very much for that. The motion is moved by Councillor Boutwell, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that Council receives the staff report for purposes of information as an update to Council regarding a summary of recent site plan approvals in the municipality. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Warren, regarding SP **# 2025 Elizabeth Street. So we know that the hotel will probably be partially on what we have designated as highway commercial. Are we giving up all of the highway commercial property for this hotel, or will there be any space left?
Mr. Warren.
There we go. Through the chair, to be honest with you, we haven't looked at a full plan for all of the lands at this point. We are hoping that it's certainly not all of the commercial lands, and we'll be trying to get as much as possible on those lands. To be completely honest with you, this is just like one corner that we've seen a concept plan for. We actually have nothing submitted concrete at this point.
Okay, thank you. Just that would be a concern to me if we give up the only piece of highway commercial property that we have left in the municipality, which previous councils worked very hard to keep, correct?
Indeed, they did. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Next report is with regard to community engagement policies and procedures. Director Walsh, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Thank you, Mayor to Council. There's nothing really much more to add. Just a bit of a commentary on recommendation number 3 about bringing back a complete application bylaw at the March 10th meeting. That's a bit of an optional matter. I think further scrutinization of the Planning Act may provide a basis for not needing the actual bylaw, that the provisions in the Planning Act really focus on official plan policies. So although a belt and suspenders approach is sometimes good to take, don't know that's totally necessary in this case, but we will report further back on March 10th in that regard.
March 17th.
17th. Oh,
I
okay.
believe the March 10th meeting has been moved to March 17th.
Okay, there you go, Ron. and so that's good to know. I have a few reports all kind of half done, ready for you already. So, and then the yeah, so this has been a bit of a interesting project to work on, and relied very heavily on the efforts by DM Wills Consulting Group, principally the Diana Kay, the lead on that project for the municipality. So I think it might be useful for council to hear from Ms. Kay.
Does Ms. Kay have a little presentation for us? There you go.
I can project quite well, so maybe I don't need to start playing around with the equipment here through you. Your
Apparently it's
worship.
easy to use. I've never actually done it myself.
Is it this one? Oh, yeah, that's fancy.
See
Oh
that?
my gosh. It's been a while since I've been here. You guys have upgraded. I like it. Through you, your worship. Thank you for having me here this evening. It's great to see some old faces and some new faces. It's been a while since I've been here. My name is Diana Kay. I'm a principal planner with DM Wills Associates. Been working with Mr. Walsh on this project. It's been a fast one, but a very informative and in-depth review of the consultation process. It was really initiated through the changes through the Planning Act, and really because the province has indicated that applicants no longer are mandatory or required to pre-consult with the municipality. As a professional planner who also does work on behalf of private clients, I always tell them pre-consultation is the way to go. You need to be able to have some communication with not just the municipalities, but relevant agencies to make sure that we're working together and submitting a complete application. At the end of the day, if the municipality feels, and council of course feels, that they don't have enough information to make a decision, and then we can deem, or the municipality can deem the application incomplete, and then go back to the applicant and request more information. So this is a way to ensure that you're keeping that communication open and that you can deem applications complete because you have enough information to make an informed decision. So in this case, we established quite a few public consultation efforts for the consultation engagement plan. So of course we did an open house. We had community surveys. What was really informative is we organized a task force, and it was compiled of both local developers as well as community members. And we really got a good diverse, I guess, compilation of feedback. And what I would say coming out of that task force, there was a lot of consensus on how important and holding an open house is. So even though, you know, the municipality doesn't always recommend open houses. And there were some pretty prescribed process with respect to open houses. It gave us some information to understand how the municipality could potentially implement the process with some improvements based on the feedback that we got. So I think that was probably the biggest feedback and I guess the changes that we made and recommended through this process. So there's some flexibility there to make sure that the open house process is maintained. However, that it is still something that can be worked between the applicant and the municipality and give enough information to the public to comment on without asking for too much. There's certain projects where maybe you do need a minimum 3 plans, multiple open houses, depending on how much it changes, but that's not always required. So it really gives an opportunity to have more fulsome conversations with the applicant with respect to open houses. Through this project, we also had an opportunity to look at how to notify the public Lots of changes, especially with social media, how you get information out. But of course, when you open things up to social media, you also get comments. So you want to make sure that you're getting constructive information when you're posting information on social media. So we came up with some different ways that you can notify the public to make sure that it is professional and keeping to the points of what it is that you're trying to notify the public about. And just some other opportunities outside of the normal, posting a sign, putting it in the newspaper. So there's quite a few options there for the municipality to utilize outside of the norm to make sure that they're reaching a broader audience. It's not to say that the standard way doesn't work well. Within a rural municipality where the internet can be a little bit spotty, you want to make sure that you're still reaching people through hard copy methods, via mail, newsletters, stuff like that. So there's quite a bit of information and opportunity to give the municipality some options on how to notify the public. And we heard back that, using plain language is really important because sometimes the notices can get a little technical and people don't know what it means. And, that's not the point. We're trying to get a message across and trying to get people to understand what it is that we're doing. So using some plain language is also recommended in the guidelines to make sure that we can reach out to people properly. Other than that, unless there's any questions, that's kind of the summary of it.
Thank you, Ms. Kay. Any questions of the consultant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion is moved by Councillor Wright and seconded by Councillor Rowley. And before I read it, I'll just note I've changed the last line from March 10th to March 17th, if you're okay with that. Yep. That council received the staff report dated February 10th, 2025 regarding a draft official plan amendment pertaining to community engagement policies and procedures and a draft bylaw for a complete information requirements for Planning Act applications. And that council be directed to give notice of a statutory public meeting regarding the draft official plan amendment to be held by council at its next available session in keeping with the public notice period as regulated. And that council receive a complete application information bylaw for its consideration at the March 17th session. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We have no items for information purposes. There is nothing listed under unfinished business. There are no bylaws to consider this evening. That brings us to question period. Does the member in the gallery have a question with regard to anything that was on tonight's agenda? Thank you, sir. No one on Zoom for that purpose, I assume. That brings us to our closed session. Everyone okay just piling through here and not taking a break? Usually I take a break at this point, but we're a little early, it would seem. So motion is moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council resolve itself into closed session February 10th, 2025 at 6:43 p.m. Pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, subsection 239(2)(c), a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, potential purchase of land. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We'll just give staff a moment to transition into the closed session. Itchy nose. Thank you, everyone. I have a motion that council rise and report from closed session February 10th, 2025 at 7:19 PM. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor McCausland. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Council met in closed session to consider matters that is permitted to do so under the Municipal Act and as listed on today's council agenda and the closed session resolution. The following items were considered during the closed session and may require motions as necessary. The first item was the approval of the closed session minutes of January 27th, 2025. This was a procedural motion to adopt the minutes and was voted on in closed session, and there remains nothing to do in the open session. The second item was thank you, everyone. I have a motion that council rise and report from closed session February 10th, 2025 at 7:19 PM. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor McCausland. Is there any discussion? Council met in closed session to consider matters that is permitted to do so under the Municipal Act and as listed on today's council agenda and the closed session resolution. The following items were considered during the closed session and may require motions as necessary. The first item was the approval of the closed session minutes of January 27th, 2025. This was a procedural motion to adopt the minutes and was voted on in closed session, and there remains nothing to do in the open session. The second item was thank you, everyone. I have a motion that council rise and report from closed session February 10th, 2025 at 7:19 PM. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor McCausland. Is there any discussion? Well, apologies for the constant interruption of myself there. So the second item was a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a potential purchase of land. And I have a motion before me to approve the item that we discussed in the closed session. It's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council approved the confidential instructions provided to staff in closed session February 10th, 2025. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. That brings us to our confirmatory bylaw. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton planning meeting held on February 10th, 2025. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And finally, a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the February 10th, 2025 council planning meeting adjourn at, thank you, 7:22 PM. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Thank you, everyone.